So we're close to the end of 1.3, and that means we have a bit of downtime in between. Rover, I got a problem with your flawless hamstrings. Your character path is worrying me, and what I mean by that is that I feel like you're falling into a combination of two tropes, and I'm worried that they won't be able to execute on it well. Those two tropes are the Mary Sue trope and the Chosen One trope. Together they make for a nasty combo of boring, predictable, and a potential hampering of stakes and even character relationships. If you're unaware of what this means, let me tell you. Mary or Larry Sues are used as a negative descriptor of generally bad writing. These characters are either perfect with basically zero flaws and are somehow extremely competent at everything they do in every aspect whenever you see them. I've seen this also described as basically wish fulfillment insert characters, which is why it's considered bad writing. It's an attempt to project yourself perfectly onto a blank character dressed up as the protagonist, and you wouldn't want yourself to be imperfect, right? The second trope is one where typically your protagonist is essentially picked as the person as an act of destiny. They are usually the ones with the gifts, the special abilities, or the mystical sword, etc. Personally, the tropes are not bad, and in many ways they can be good depending on how they are written and executed. I would say the Mary Sues though are a bit hard unless it's maybe some kind of satire or parody work. But I would highly urge to not look at tropes as like a good or bad thing, rather just a descriptor, and you won't fully know until maybe you finished it. In Rover's case, I feel like I'm seeing the bad aspect rear its head as of the content thus far, mid 1.3. I know it's a bit contradictory since Rover's character arc isn't done yet, but I'm just saying I feel worried with what we have seen so far. So far, Rover has essentially been the fixer-upper. If they're not competent in combat, they are exceptional in military strategy even though they have amnesia, or they're the go-to person for a trial in stolen art, or they're the genius able to seemingly pull out or know that a harmonious lament object would work for replacing either Shorekeeper or Rover as an emotional core for the Tethys calculations, even though Rover never specifically alluded to that clearly enough to where we could understand that solution path. Do you see what I'm saying? In each of these, Rover's just the solution. If it's not them, they create one, and in 1.3's case, it was a bit sloppy in my opinion. Granted, I will say Jaja's in my opinion was the best because eventually she grew and took the reins in her story.
You've been going to those sites again, haven't you?
Yeah!
But overall, Rover has essentially been the perfect being, the perfect puzzle piece to fix everything. They're not only just the chosen one with Abby being able to suck off everything, but they're just too good at everything. There have been no flaws really presented in Rover. Now my guess as to why this is the case is because they're still setting things up. I think what they're trying to do is set up grandiose expectations of what Rover is versus what they have done in their previous incarnations when we learn more about their past. That's of course assuming that there is reincarnation stuff, since that also is kind of speculatory too. I make this educated wish because of how 1.0's story alludes to a past where Rover maybe had ties to the Fraxidus as one of the Black Lambs according to Scar. However, that does sort of present a problem, since if that were to be the case, why is it that everyone loves us and no one remembers that we aligned or helped these groups of terrorists? Additionally, if Rover is millions of years old, there has to be instances where they have made bad decisions, harmed others unintentionally as a result, or have had regrets in how they shaped, made, or led a civilization. I just refuse to believe everything Rover did has been perfect, and I want Kuro to start sprinkling out some of those crumbs of doubt so we can see the cracks and motivations for why Rover is such an altruistic, loved, and perfect being. Show me what Rover hasn't done right. Show me flashbacks of tough decisions they had to make through whatever means make sense. I think we're getting to a point where we need to start seeing this, because nothing is more boring than a flawless protagonist and can basically solve and do everything. There's no stakes, there's no potential for growth or learning, and there's no forward momentum from the adaptation or failures of those flaws. I feel like we're seeing more of those flaws with other characters rather than with Rover themselves. That's not a bad thing, but it just makes every other interaction with said characters more boring since character their interactions and chemistry is predictable and one-sided. Anywho, do you think I have a point in what I've said? I know a common problem that people have is that Rover is glazed more than a Krispy Kreme donut in an hour-long JAQ. But what other story or narrative related things do you have some worries or current gripes with that you want to see improved on? In any case, I appreciate you, thank you for letting me take your time, and be safe out there.